right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today with myself, Mohanad Al-Barashi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Work, and I'm joined today by Olivier Gomez, the co-founder and CEO of IAC. There are a few more people joining, so we'll just give everybody another couple of minutes or so to get going, and then we're going to kick off the webinar here. We've already a few people attending, so thank you for being on time. Olivier, where are you today?
I'm in France.
In Paris still?
I am in the south of France right now.
Okay, so where the people go to summer in France?
Exactly. Exactly.
Beautiful. I love it. All right. Okay, so we've got a bunch of people joining here. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna kick this off just to stay on track with time. So thank you all for joining today and attending our session. The topic of today is just transforming your business in 30 days or less with automation and AI. Olivier and I are going to walk you guys through a number of different strategies that both of our organizations have used to help deploy automation and AI, or use both automation and AI to help both small, medium-sized businesses as well as larger organizations really automate themselves. Before we dive in, just a little bit about myself, and I'll let Olivier present himself as well. But very briefly, I've been in the tech and automation space for the last 15 years. I co-founded Work.com almost 6 years ago now. It'll be our 6-year anniversary coming up next month, with a very simple idea of how can we enable automation and AI to help transform predominantly small and medium-sized businesses, but really any business of any organization. Over the course of the last 6 years, we've built a pretty comprehensive AI and automation deployment platform, which is the Work.com platform, that can be used today to combine a number of different categories of API connectors and AI bots and pre-built bots, as well as robotic process automation and human in the loops, to really be able to automate any process across any organization. Today, we have many clients all over the world for whom we automate processes simple and complex. And then today, we'll walk you guys through some of the strategies that we've seen being really effective, especially in a small and medium-sized business setting. But before we continue, I'd love to introduce you all to Olivier. So Olivier, if you want to just take a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Olivier Gomez, based in France. Long experience working for large corporation with large company. So I co-founded about 4 years ago IAC. We are a consulting and service company specialized on AI and automation technology. And one of the things that we like to highlight is that we are really focused on the outcome of the technology, the business impact of the technology, and that's what we keep talking about all the time with the client, because we know that unfortunately still quite a bit of technology project not achieving a positive return on investment. So this return on investment, this outcome centric approach, this frankly, although we are here with WRK today, this what I call technology agnostic approach is really important for us because we have one single goal, which is to help company achieve impact from the technology. We work with large corporation. We also work with a smaller company, and we go from assessment all the way to implementation. So we are working together with WRK. That's a technology platform that we like, and we are here today to talk about how sharing lessons and use cases and tangible examples, and talk about how specifically SMBs need to seriously look at automation and AI. We are in 2025, right?
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you, Olivier. So we're going to deep dive into some examples and so forth. But what I thought we would do first is just do sort of like a little roundabout view of where the industry is at today. And so obviously you and I spend a tremendous amount of time looking and assessing what's happening in the world of AI and automation. And I grabbed some headlines that I thought could be of interest to the people attending the webinar today, just to provide a little bit of a macro perspective about what's going on, and then deep diving into some of the more tactical things as well that we're seeing. But what I found interesting in looking at where the trend is headed in terms of the macro implementation for AI and automation, we're looking at a $1.8 trillion industry that is going to be sort of like a force, if you will, with the global artificial intelligence market generating almost $200 billion in 2023, and looking to almost 10 or 20x that over the course of the next 7 or 8 years. Just wanted to get your reactions in terms of what you thought, about the size of the industry, about some of the segments where this is going, about some of the penetration that maybe even you're seeing. Obviously, we operate in North America. You're operating, a little bit more in Europe. How are you feeling about the size and growth and scale of this thing, and as well just about overall adoption and penetration of AI and automation within the sectors and the geographies that you guys are operating in?
Yeah, so I would say, and again, stating the obvious here, but in terms of technology wave, AI it's not a wave anymore; it's a tsunami, right? It's extremely huge. I think we can clearly say that although there's part of the world clearly leading, I think everyone around the world, wherever you are, everyone is adopting quite rapidly AI. So it's growing truly globally from, let's say, US, China kind of leading AI, or all the way to maybe some emerging market. Everyone is looking at it. Everyone is accelerating. It's not anymore just chasing this shiny new object. It's not about playing with this new you know LLM release. It's really becoming serious business here. It's being embedded everywhere, and it's looking at, as I was saying, looking at driving real impact from it, right? So the focus here is really to scale that thing, and we see the market all over the place accelerating super fast around it.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing something very similar as well. When we started at work in 2019, our initial foray into the space was to really try and help deploy automation for large enterprises. What we came to learn was when we had started in 2019, it was already saturated. There were already so many vendors already playing in this space. What became really clear to us was the bigger opportunity was in the SMB market, not because there weren't solution providers, but they were very kind of small and siloed and focused on little niche things. Nothing was really sort of like broad. I'm very fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time traveling, and I actually spent a bunch of time in Brazil. And I was really blown away with the rate of technological advancement that they have over there, and really the speed with which they're implementing solutions like these. And so it's really fascinating to me to think about where AI and automation is being consumed in some of the countries that you wouldn't expect them to be consumed, and the impact that they're having on these small and medium-sized businesses. So you're right. I think we are absolutely in a tsunami, and where it goes next, I think is really interesting. One of the things that I was really curious about as well as we start thinking about how the end consumer of those businesses is engaging with that technological deployment, right? So if we're thinking about small and medium-sized businesses or even large enterprise deploying, these agent AIs, what's being called as agentic AI, we're now starting to see it go mainstream. So you may have gone and gotten a phone call from a voice AI agent that you did not know was a voice AI agent. You may be engaging with a chatbot who you think is a human or human-like, and it's not a human. It's not a human at all. It's an AI agent that's in the background answering your questions and queries and going into platforms. And so what we're seeing is, overall, it seems like people are generally happier or okay talking to human customer service staff over AI chatbots. That's for now. I wonder if that's starting to shift a little bit. I know we're starting to see a pretty significant amount of demand in voice AI agents in general. What are you seeing out there in terms of how your customers are looking to engage with customer service humans versus customer service bots?
Yeah, and I would say we also need to look at the even bigger picture, but specifically on that point, I think there's areas where it is totally okay to have interaction with a machine because the machine is reaching a point where the interaction is good. So when we evolved away from uh, old chatbot technology towards LLM based technology, the response, and not just from the young people, the response from overall a human has been really good because the quality of the interaction, you don't get trapped in the loop, you don't get asked stupid question. There's really a really natural chat GPT like type of conversation flow. So in those area where I would say the technology is mature enough, the acceptance rate is really good. And as you said, it's becoming so good that sometimes you are not even sure whether you're talking to human or to machine, right? There's other areas where you talk about agents, and if we look at the wider definition of what an agent is, the agentic AI. There's still areas where we are a bit more cautious. It's great news because we see a lot of action being taken by AI, where before it was more conversation, now it's conversation and action. There's some areas where we are a little bit cautious. There's a need for governance. There's a need for human in the loop. Uh, at the moment, still required. In the future, obviously, that will be a different story. But my point is, there's some areas where there's a good level of maturity where we are very comfortable interacting 100% with AI. And there's some areas where we still need a human in the loop, right? And this is an evolving situation that is evolving super fast, by the way. If today I'm not comfortable in that space, let's say a large corporate workflow, being fully handled by a non-deterministic AI solution, people are getting a bit stressed and they want to have human in the loop. But we'll talk about it in 12, 24 months, right? Things will evolve and things will change, and people will start trusting more and more what AI can do.
Yeah, I mean, on our end, I've been really surprised with the amount of business owners who are willing to give this a go in a production setting, who are willing to deploy an AI voice agent and see how it performs, because I think they're starting to rationalize the impact that all of these small little solutions can have on their teams and businesses. And I was actually giving another talk just last night, and um, you know, the gist of where we were headed with that conversation was every little incremental gain is making every human being that much more productive. And it's not making it that the business owners are looking to remove people from the workforce, is now it's making them ask, what else can I do with the excess time that I have from the people who have become that much more efficient? And so I think that all of these things are really coming together in a really material way in terms of just making businesses overall more efficient. Which brings me to this slide that I thought was really interesting, which is this sort of small business tech adoption. And what are we seeing? And this was from about a month ago, so it might have changed a little bit, but it seems like almost 40% of small businesses that were surveyed by this research firm are now using AI tools primarily for marketing, customer service, and communication. We're starting to see a big focus on marketing and social media, just because content production, obviously, I'm sure everyone's played around with ChatGPT, having it to produce blogs or replying to social media and things like that. I've certainly been playing with it with OpenAI Operator, just to test out what it would look like if it could reply to some of my LinkedIn posts, and I was actually really surprised with how well it did. It did sound a little too AI, but I think it's starting to get there now. Anecdotally, the interesting bit is all of the replies that I got to my automated post also sounded like they were AI. And so we're entering in this very weird dystopian universe where it's the bots talking to the bots, and then who's really reading all the content. Certainly I know that I have AI agents that are helping me filter through my email, filter through my communication. So I know I'm starting to become more efficient, and small, medium-sized businesses are starting to use that as well. How about you on your end? Like, how are you seeing? Are you still seeing that most of the AI adoption is still in this sort of like content production, marketing, social media, the stuff that is not too, let's say, mission critical and is easy to test? Or are you starting to see more and more deployments in more complex stuff?
Yeah. So So first of all, just to react on what you said, right, on social media. So you would be amazed. Let's take LinkedIn as an example. The let's call it the most professional social network. You would be amazed how many of those conversations are not actually human
Mm,
conversation, right? This is becoming mainstream. A lot of companies are obviously jumping on that, and frankly, even if the company don't have the technical skills to understand the underlying technology, they are becoming more and more comfortable using the technology with a input output mindset, right? So I'm prompting something to a black box. Maybe I'm being helped by a platform, by an external team, and if the outcome is aligned with my expectation, the content creation, maybe some commentings that are being done by LLMs, all of that, it's becoming business as usual now, right? Because the quality of it is, of course, you can put some traps and you can detect when it's AI, but frankly the quality is really really becoming amazing
mm,
across all kinds of LLMs, right? Not just one specific LLM, but all the providers have now I think really high quality capability there. Now when we come to, let's say, moving away from what is at the periphery of the business, and we go into the core. To answer your question, everyone is seriously in the process of implementing AI. Sometimes a combination of AI and, let's say, old school automation. So a proper balance between deterministic and non-deterministic, so to try to control the behavior of that. But everyone is looking at the core business processes of the company and injecting across the board some AI capability in the form of agents to, one way or the other, try to automate, try to optimize the flow, right? So of course they are more cautious when it's business critical, when it's a core supply chain, when it's a core I don't know, a ticketing, tool that basically handles all the support, all the satisfaction, all the delivery of a company. They are very cautious, but everyone now is starting to, at the bare minimum, run some POCs against business critical processes.
yeah, and one of the key features of our platform when we were developing it, just sort of thinking future wise, was to include this human in the loop component to have that additional sanity check to ensure that the bot is doing the thing that you want it done as per your specifications. And so I remember when I first got the Tesla and I tried autopilot for the first time, I was very reticent and, I was very cautious and, I was kind of like, okay, my foot is on the brake, my foot is on the gas, and I'm kind of just like very weary about what it would do. And then probably by the third or fourth time, I just kind of took my hands off the steering wheel and I was able to start trusting it more and more. I think it's going to be a pretty similar experience with a lot of these automated processes. And what we're also starting to see more and more is that these models are starting to become so sophisticated that they're becoming, I don't want to call self-aware, but almost self-aware about potential mistakes they're making. And they're self-correcting themselves and they're recognizing this doesn't look quite right. So it's interesting to see that we're entering this realm where AI agents in themselves can be, self-healing, if you will. But between now and then, the human in the loop component still enables organizations to at least deploy and not wait for this, inevitability of the world to get to.
Yeah,
So
and if I may there,
yeah,
so for people to project, right? So where are we going with this? Um, Human will more and more be positioned as uh, a supervisor here, right? So right now we call it human in the loop, meaning I'm jumping in when AI is doing a mistake. Tomorrow AI will do less and less mistake. As you said, it will behave like an employee, being able to correct, listen to feedback, and do a number of things. But we will most likely have a human layer on top that will supervise and make sure. And also sometimes, like the same way you are prompting your LLM, We will be here giving direction to a team of AI agent, and we will manage them as if we are managing a team of employee. This is a there's some consensus out there. People are seeing this role like a supervisor of AI
Mm.
agent role that is going to become, one of the standard role for a human, and it's kind of an evolution of a human in the loop role.
Yeah, and I think this is a really great segue into this topic that I wanted to bring up, which is, a lot of people, and we're certainly getting often asked, you and I and others in our industry as well, what is the impact of all of this from again, a macro perspective on the human workforce? Is this going to create mass layoffs? Is this going to create new jobs? And really, the overall consensus out there is everybody's a little bit confused, right? You have the dystopians that will say everybody's going to get kicked out of the workforce, and our bot overlords will take over. And then you've got the inverse opposite of that, which are saying, well, much like the internet and how many jobs it created when it was invented, this will also create a whole new stream and industries in themselves that will be sprung up because they need to sort of boost and be part of this sort of AI economy. So what are your reflections on this? What do you think here is and what can we help, the people listening to this webinar think through in terms of the impact that all of this advancement in AI is going to have with their workforce, and how should they be thinking about, you know, tweaking and optimizing their workforce for that, again, to brace
Yeah,
for that impact?
yeah. So a number of things here. First, it's not the first time that we have major disruption. So looking at the past is helping us understand the future sometimes. And when we got major technology being released, like for example, the electricity, like the combustion engine, so on and so forth, this has drastically impacted a number of industries, and people have recovered. What we know is that there's a period, a certain time where people are a bit lost. There's a big, everything is reshuffled. It's a huge disruption. People are seeing it as, maybe it was a dystopian view, like, it's really bad. I just call it a disruption. It will happen where, jobs will disappear, a new job will be created. And we've seen that in the past. So, what is important here for people is to stay relaxed, to stay cool, and more importantly, not to give up on the reskilling, upskilling that is required, right? So again, there's a new technology. Either you embrace it, you learn how to deal with it, you learn how to manage it, supervise it, or you are basically going to be one of those human that are going to be left on the side, not upskilled, not understanding what's happening, and somehow, having to compete with humans that are what I call enhanced, right? So they will be enhanced by technology. And I think this is the most important thing, right? Let's not be afraid of this. Let's not have those crazy, cyborg story where you're going to have a chip in your head and it's going to be the end of the world. This is a very powerful technology wave we see here. I am personally, using this technology on a daily basis, many hours a day. I have increased my personal productivity by, I would say, 2x minimum, thanks to this technology. And I think this is all good news. I don't see the end of the world here. I see a world where, again, some of those tasks will be handled by technology. The same way I'm very happy to have electricity, air conditioning, and a car. All of those technology are making our life easier, making our life more comfortable. And I think AI and robotics, if I'm adding it, because it has to be added, is going to be the same. So let's not be afraid. Let's not go into the end of the world type of conversation, and let's just embrace the technology and learn. This is really important, right? One of the critical skill of the future is being able to uh, you know learn on an ongoing basis and never give up, because the rate of change is accelerating. And this is maybe one of the challenge for human, is we have to be able to stay on par with the technology is accelerating faster, and this is something that is really important, right? Be eager to learn, be eager to yeah, upskill all the time. This is really key.
Yeah, and I think it's really important not to get sort of sucked into the narrative of the negative news that's out there, right? And so you're hearing every day, companies like Klarna and IBM and others that are laying off some percentage of their workforce. I think that's just a natural culling process that's happening in some of these very large organizations that are very focused on bottom line performance. But from an SMB perspective, I don't think that we're seeing that. Maybe there's a slowdown in hiring in some cases, but also a speeding up of hiring in new industries that are really benefiting from the, added optimization that we're seeing because of AI. So I think generally speaking, I'm more bullish, and positive about the outlook of what the impact of this technology is, versus sort of negative and thinking about where things are going to head in a negative direction. We'll do just a couple of more, and then we'll head into the more broader topic of just how to implement AI in the day to day and automation. But one of the really interesting bits as well is we're starting to see this sort of like magnificent scale get produced when certain technologies are embedded together. And so when we think about automation and AI, they're often confused one to another, right? We think they're all the same thing. They're really not quite all the same thing. And so what we're certainly seeing is when automation and AI are integrated together, when you hear about things like robotic process automation being done by using computer vision, or certainly Work has a product that uses Vision RPA as well to automatically fill forms and perform actions on web-based applications and browser-based application and desktop-based applications, it really does give you this hyper automation scale. So let's maybe take a minute and just talk to people about what this really means, and what you're seeing being this implementation and the distinction between automation and AI within the types of clients you're dealing with.
Yeah, so it's this is really typical, right? People consider technology as one single tool or one single area. The actual ecosystem of tools is huge. It's extremely large, and there's many ways people have been trying to represent, all the different areas that are being covered here. I like to use a human body, with the hands, the brain, the eye, the mouse. So we basically have all those capabilities: vision, speech, action, brain. Um, and what is really important here to understand is that all those capabilities are all of them growing, improving at different pace. But you really get the full power of this when you orchestrate it, right? And this is really the key point here: is it's like if you have like 50 tools in your toolbox, and in order for all of that to really deliver the full power, you need to have a capability to aggregate all those tools all together, following a flow, a workflow to orchestrate all of that, and to trigger the vision, and to trigger the speech, and to trigger the brain, and to trigger the legs, and to trigger, and once you are able to do that, then you really end up having what we call hyper automation or intelligent automation. There's multiple ways to call that. So we don't have silos of technology. The one winning are the one that are able to aggregate everything.
Yeah. And so I think what's just really important here for the people listening to this webinar is to understand that there are, to your point, different sets of tools, and implementing them together in the right sort of formula for you is what's going to drive the biggest impact. We often get asked, okay, well, just come and deploy AI. It doesn't quite work this way. It's working backwards, and we'll get into a few minutes in terms of how you identify the process and find the right tools. But automation and AI and RPA and API connectors, all these things, they're exactly what you mentioned. They're just different bits of a much more global sort of set of solutions that need to be really, combined together in a very specific way to benefit you. But just be aware that there are more and more tools coming out every single day for your own benefit. Don't try and lump everything all under the same umbrella, because they're just not the same thing. And you're going to be quite disappointed if you go out there and just try and hire consultants and just say, hey, just AI implement a bunch of stuff for me. It doesn't quite work this way. And I think you actually, and we'll get into it a bit more tactically in a couple minutes here, You have to be really diligent with really being very clear about what it is that you're trying, what is the outcome that you're trying to produce. And then that way we can sort of like help, give you the best tools to be able to deliver that result. Which really leads me into now, what are some of those tools out there? Like when we talk about this potential of producing hyper automation for the organization, all of these performance gains and stuff. So really, I've broken them down into six categories here. We've got the sort of the no code low code adoption, and these are just trends and examples of things that can be done, but just to give you guys all a little bit of an overview of what they are. So these are tools like the work platform that can give you access to all the different tool sets that are out there and allows you to combine them in some unique way that then delivers the end output that you need. And we are one of several. There are other companies like Zapier and Make and Trade.io and others that do that as well, but just wanted to give you sort of like a fully rounded view of what's out there. Then there's computer vision RPA, which is predominantly used for automating visual tasks or tasks that can be automated by interacting with an application on screen. So imagine that someone logging into a specific website and filling a form and clicking a button and filling a captcha and so forth. All of these can be done with what's called the computer vision RPA. Then we're seeing the sort of like the migration or the connection between systems that can talk to each other using an API. So, most cloud platforms today have a modern API, or they offer a modern API, but sometimes, especially small, medium-sized businesses, they use some pretty archaic systems or some systems that are very niche and focused on their specific industry. Residential property management is a huge one where we see this as a big problem. Healthcare is another one where they have just legacy old systems that are in some cases literally sitting on a laptop somewhere in someone's office. So how you create the interconnections between these systems is actually quite cumbersome, and we're one of the companies that's able to provide these types of interconnections with them. And then there are other tools that are now enabling you to be able to do things like content and code generation using AI. So you might have heard of companies like Cursor or GitHub Copilot or Jasper, and there are many others that are being able to produce content. There's the AI video ad content. I actually just posted a few days ago. I use a platform called HeyGen that took an image of me, and now it's figured out the lip syncing, so I can just give it a script via text and it moves my lips. It's pretty freaky, but it works really well. And then, of course, there's the agentic AI world, which now you're seeing with Operator and AutoGPT and so forth. So I don't want to say this is the entirety of the landscape that exists out there, but these are some of the high level tools that certainly are out there and the key trends that we're seeing in terms of the adoption. But if you anything else that maybe comes to mind that you guys are seeing, and how are you thinking about all these different tools as well for the implementation of these solutions for clients?
Yeah, so I mean, we could speak for 20 hours about this.
Yeah.
Uh, I think there's a couple of important things here. First of all this technology historically was very complex to use. Yeah, you had to be almost a software developer to be able to use some of those technology. There's less than 1% of the world population that has this software development skill. Less than 1% of the population could be doing stuff with those technology. I think now with the low code, the no code, with the LLM being able to code, this is great news. I think it's helping us scale, and there's a democratization of those technology, which means that it's not just 1% of the population being able to do something with this. We are opening up, and as you said, you are a low code platform. We are opening up to 100% of the population in the world to be able to do something. This is really an important point. The second important point is all those tools, you need to think of them, as I said, you have to orchestrate them, and there's different categories, but there will always be an input and an output. And when you are looking at all those tools and you're adding more capabilities, so the vision is great, generating videos with Google VO3, for example, right? Or I mean, there's a lot of amazing stuff that we see nowadays, but ultimately, we don't want to forget that for all of that to get into motion, there's a need for that input to be working well. The data that comes in, the prompts, everything that feeds the engine. This is also something that needs to be looked at. That is very often acting as a bottleneck, as you said, right? Connecting to legacy system, getting access to legacy data. All of that is really important. So I would say we'll keep having a lot of very cool new technology. We will be, connecting to more and more, but ultimately, what I see is more and more people are having access to this technology. More and more, of the 99% of the world population can access those tools and do something and create, application without even writing a line of code. This is crazy. There's even this projection that the future of the operating system will be AI. So AI will basically be the core operating system where it will generate on the fly the software that is required for a given task. I mean, this is like forward thinking. And then think about always the inputs. If you don't feed AI with the right thing, it will not work as expected.
Yeah. So I think really entering a very interesting time where the use of these tools is going to really transform the day-to-day operations of every business. And so I think it's a matter of creating awareness. And so if we take all of these things together, and so the predominant composition of the clients that we work with at work are all small, medium-sized businesses. So that's 5 to 50 employees on the small size, 50 to 500 employees on the medium size. And the reality is, irrespective of the size of the organization, for me at least, the process has always been the same. And so often, if not in every case, it's kind of like these 7 steps that we always go through. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these and sort of how they apply to your process as well. Number one is just find the use case. And so, it's I'm shocked often, where we go into conversations and all they really want is let's just deploy AI, and they don't really have a specific end outcome. But if you don't know what it is that you're trying to solve and what you're trying to alleviate, then you're kind of like you need to be working backwards to get that goal is delivered, not the other way around. And so the first thing to do is just really, what's wasting your time today? Ask this question to your team. Look at the competitors in your space and your peers as well. What are they doing? And I know this sounds dumb, but often actually just using these LLMs to give you ideas about what others in your industries may be doing is a real thing too. And there's a lot of articles being produced and generated right now about specific industries and how they're automating themselves. Once you've identified the use case, then it's all about mapping the process. It's literally just sitting there by hand or using a process mapper. We have one at work, so you can go to agent.work.com and you just start describing your process. It'll create a process map for you. But often it's just sitting down with a person who's going through the pain every single day. All right, walk me through it. What do you do? Step one, step two, step three, and so forth. And then the following step after that is just choosing the tools. Like, what are we going to be able to use to build this? Is it going to be, Cursor for the more technical users to build something from scratch? Work for the more operational users that just want a no-code platform to do this? Do they want to use an agency like IAC and go, hey, Olivier, just solve this problem for me? At least I know what my use case is and what I'm trying to solve. And then from there, the rest of it is actually really, to me, is actually really important because often people just get really excited and enamored by let's deploy automation, let's deploy AI, but they forget to figure out how to measure the impact that that's having. So how are you going to measure that? Are you going to measure the time saved for your team? Are you going to measure the additional revenue that's been produced? Are you going to measure how many more reports or how many more clients or how many, right? You have to really be clear on your KPI. And then going from there and turning these automations into AI agents, kind of like having this, to your point earlier, almost like this AI employee that you can hold accountable for the output that you did it. You actually have to start thinking of them this way. And then taking all of these, and then we spoke about it a few slides ago, this whole, I think, philosophy of when you deploy these systems, you're making your employees a lot more efficient. And so think more upskill than fire. Think more about, well, if my team is now 2x more efficient, that means that they have the ability to produce potentially 2x more, or it frees up at least 50% of their time. What can I do with their time? Versus, oh, that means I could probably let go of X more people, right? And then one thing that I'm starting to see more and more, and certainly something that we recommend to our clients is when you become more efficient, you're making more money and you're certainly saving a lot of cost and saving a lot of time. Instead of having this mindset of, well, now I'm going to become more profitable and it's going to impact my bottom line, why don't you think about doing more? Why don't you think about building an internal venture studio almost to think about new products, new ideas, new, service lines that you can open up because you have the team in place, right? So instead of letting people go And now that they're more efficient, what else can I sell? How else can I delight my customer? What else can I produce for them that could produce revenue and your results for the both of us? So that's sort of like our mind map in terms of how we recommend things to clients. Curious to hear your thoughts on this as well, and how we align obviously our visions on those.
Yeah, I, I think that it's very clear that I don't know if it's human nature or if it's corporate nature, but there's a number of mistakes that people do that they keep doing all the time. So if I take your flow here, the first one is certainly uh, to jump on a use case without spending the time to understand the environment, assess the environment, and identify where it makes the most sense to deploy the technology. Because obviously, there's so many areas where you can deploy it. And as you said, right? I mean, whether you're using ChatGPT or you are leveraging well documented use cases that are out there, learning what's available, understanding what the competition is doing, what the market is doing, is extremely important. Getting help from people who have done it, 200 times. Every time we run an assessment for clients, we find so many use cases that they did not really think of in
Mm,
areas where they would never look at. And we looked at it because the data told us to look at it. So this is one key point here, right? Is before you run really fast, make sure that you have the right direction. This is a
mm,
typical mistake everyone does because they get excited. The second mistake is starting with the tool and then building around it rather than starting with the use case and then selecting the right tool. This is very often leading to killing the return on investment. This is very often also leading to a project failing because it's the wrong tool for the job. So it's very exciting to work with cool feature, but this is the wrong place to start. If you start with picking up the tool, I've seen so many companies spending millions of dollars on a cool technology and then trying to find out what to do with it. This is obviously not the right way of doing it, and yet people are doing it. That's the second one. And then I would say the last one is connecting the dot with the business. If you do all of this and ultimately it does not impact the P&L, if you don't see it, top or bottom of your P&L, then why are you doing it? This is also something that people are failing to understand, and they say my AI projects are not scaling. They are not scaling because not everyone in the company understand the business impact of what you are doing, so they are not behind it. If you were to articulate clearly which KPI and how does it impact the financials of the company, then everyone would be super excited about scaling it. This is the third most common mistake we see.
yeah, we certainly see this in our world as well, and and this is why we also, when we were conceptualizing about how we were going to develop the Work.com platform, we were thinking about our value add and our key differentiators. And this is where you and I align a lot in terms of the vision with our clients, objective, working backwards from what the end outcome that needs to be done, and frankly moving fast so that we're not trying to boil the ocean. Often we have clients come in and again they're enamored with this idea, I want to automate my entire business. Okay, but what does that mean, right? So if we can actually come up with a roadmap and then have incremental gains where we're launching a new automation almost on a weekly basis, then you're going, a step-by-step gradual progression that gives you over the course of 12 months an incredible roadmap and then tons of performance gains, right? um,
If I
I'm
if
going
I
to
may
skip
if
a
I may
couple of
add
things.
something
Yeah.
here, and this is
Mhm.
really important for people to understand, right? So when you are aiming, once you know what you want, let's say you want to automate something happening in your factory, whatever, I don't know. The way to automate this is not to deploy a monster use case that is going to automate everything in one shot. The way to think about it is you're going to have many small use cases that will all be deployed one after the other, all aiming at achieving the same goal, which is automating your factory. Maybe you'll start with that part of the process, that part of the process. So don't see it as a monster use case that does everything everywhere. You have to itemize, right? And it's probably going to be like 50 different smaller use cases that, when all combined, will achieve the full automation of a given process.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And this is also comes the part, and this is what I was trying to show on screen here while you were talking, Olivier, is, the examples of the use cases that we're certainly starting to deploy and we're starting to see out there and that we're deploying for a lot of our small, medium size, as well as some of our enterprise clients are, as you can see them written on the screen, very targeted, right? It's, I have a team that's dealing with RFPs or RFQs that are coming into an email inbox, and I need to prioritize them. I need to figure out how to do my lead engagement automation. I need to figure out how to manage my payment processing better. And then what's really important is you have to think beyond the topic. So, for instance, when we say, well, we've got a vendor RFQ automation workflow, that could be applied to so many different things. Like you have to be able to take a step back. So I was meeting with a very large influencer in the Middle East who was telling me his big pain point is his team gets so many requests inbound for him to go and do speaking engagements or whatever. They don't know, how to manage all of this. But if you take what the vendor RFQ automation workflow is, all it really is it's just its classification and triaging of information. So it could be applied to so many different use cases. So just take these examples that you're seeing being publicized, and I don't want to say with a grain of salt, but certainly take a step back and try and think about how you can adapt them to your day-to-day, settings and how they adapt to you. This is not a specific use case for a client. This is just to give you an idea of what some of the people out there are doing.
Yep, 100%. So many of those use cases can be leveraged, and with very little tweaking can be reapplied elsewhere. So we see that all the time, right? And this is actually great. It's like, see it as some Lego blocks that you can leverage to go build something totally different elsewhere, and yet leveraging the same core logic.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go through. We'll share this slide deck afterwards with the folks that have attended this webinar, but just to show obviously the impact that it's had, and I don't have to tell you about the tons of hours and cost savings and stuff like that. I think that's pretty obvious. One of the ones that I'm really excited about though is this AI voice agent stuff, and I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and get your thoughts and inputs on what are you seeing out there, because it is probably our single most demanded feature today. Is people want to replace their receptionist, or certainly, especially in the home services industry, these are, the electricians, the plumbers, the lawn mowers, the pool cleaning and repair companies. The challenge that a lot of these home services companies face is the people who run these companies are also the people doing the repair jobs or doing the actual service calls. And so they're out there, cleaning pools, cutting, trimming hedges, and, connecting electrical wires. And then they get a phone call for someone who wants to book them, but they can't do two things at the same time. And so often they have a receptionist or someone, doing that work. And now we're starting to see their desire to try and see if a voice AI agent can be used for that. And we'll share this video that we have on our YouTube that shows you a working example of it. The voice AI agents are becoming really spectacular and in multiple languages. What are you seeing out there with voice AI agents?
No, and this is going to be huge, right? Because it works. Uh, you can, whether you're a really small company like on your own, or whether you are part of a much bigger company where there's more complex background integration required through APIs and backend system, it works. It really works, and it's really bringing this capability that I have this extra employee that is able to interact out there with humans, understand their needs, map it to somehow, and again, I oversimplify, but map it to my a portfolio of services that I am able to sell or deliver. And all of that activity is working very smoothly, very accurately. Depending on the complexity of what you are doing, if you do very, let's say, if you do a lot of tailor solution, you might need a little bit of human in the loop at the end. But for sure, this is going to be I think in a few years, it will be 99% of the company using those, and
Yeah.
when you will call, whether it is to buy a swimming pool or to buy a car or whatever food, it will all be AI for sure.
Yeah. And so the advice here is don't delay testing this out because it is available today. It works really, really well. And then once you have it, and again, in this framework of having things being additive, right, where you start with a little bit and then you keep adding, I think that's the right strategy versus, again, trying to boil the ocean and get everything done all in one shot.
100,
Okay.
100%
So,
aligned on that. One part of those final, and I want to react on that.
yeah.
Uh, you don't want to, because as I said, right, the rate at which the technology is evolving is crazy, and you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait. This is really
Mm.
important, right? There's a number of things here that are clearly working across industries, across different sides of businesses. And if you are not, giving a try, I think you are doing a mistake.
Completely agree. So we'll leave you all with a few final thoughts from both of us, and then if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them on the chat here. But I think it's pretty obvious that automation plus AI will really transform any business. I think that it is incumbent on you to try and force your team to really level up with some of these AI tools. Give them objectives of cost savings or improvements of certain efficiencies internally, but be very clear and prescriptive with the KPIs that they need to actually achieve. Maybe it's X number of additional reports produced per month. Maybe it's reducing the amount of time that it takes to onboard a client. Maybe it's less time spent on managing invoices. Whatever it is, just make sure that it's measurable and that they're clear that they need to go out there and figure out the tools to use it, or at the very least give them consultants and the support necessary to be able to identify those tools. um, Focus absolutely on the right tool for the job. More technical users use something like Cursor. More operational users, you're welcome to use platforms like work.com. Less of both. Hire someone like Olivier and his agency to basically come in and help you guys figure out how to do it. And so the spectrum is there, and all of these tools, and us included, we're all sort of intermixed, right? Like it is not mutually exclusive. We can all be together. We can all be separate. This really is the golden age. You need to move a heck of a lot faster to get your company upgraded to use AI sooner than later. And then just really think about launching things on the side, like this internal venture studio model inside your company, enabling your own employees to really become kind of like self-servicing with this tooling will have massive, massive impacts for your business going on. So Olivier, your final thoughts on these as well.
Oh, I think it's okay. I'm old. You're old. I mean, my kids tell me I'm old all the time. So, I'm kind of trying to internalize that I'm old when it comes to new technology, right? But
Yeah.
the point here is uh, this is probably one of the most exciting time ever because we are really here having a truly transformative technology that is very easy to use, very easy to implement, that is evolving really fast. It doesn't work today. It will work in 2 months. So for me, this is very exciting. I see it for my own business. I see my clients. You need to have this, excitement of this is new, and it's not just cool, right? It's powerful, and you have to jump. You have to jump, right? You cannot say, I'm too old for that. No, this is definitely something that is. I don't think any. Honestly, I don't think any business will survive if they don't embrace AI really quick and really strongly. So
Yeah.
I don't think you have a chance to compete with someone who is fully equipped with AI capabilities and AI agents. And if you are not, I don't think you can compete, honestly.
Agreed. Okay, well, this is the end of the sort of the presentation and the discussion that we've had. If anybody has any questions, we have a few minutes left here, then we can answer a couple of questions. One that did come through, Olivier, was people were asking about some use cases that have been implemented in the financial services industry. So any use cases that you can share in financial services. And the other one is just to share timelines, like how long does the process of deploying an automation usually take in general, just to help people sort of have a frame of mind of what is the length of time that it looks like.
Okay, so let me start with the second one. Um, we have done some project in weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and we've been able to build, deploy, test uh, some solution, and then we have other solutions that are frankly taking months, right? So it really depends on the size, the complexity of the integration, honestly, the speed at which the client is able to cooperate. So, sometimes clients are not that fast. They are very busy. They don't have bandwidth. Just, having them, I don't know, create a virtual machine is taking weeks, right? But I would say if you are a reasonably small company and you are on your side, very responsive, you can move very fast. In a matter of weeks, you can set up the tool, the integration, build the orchestration, do the testing, and then again get going from there and have this incremental approach that every week, every month, you're gonna have. I call it the automation rate, right? You target a certain process, you start at zero, and then every week, every month, you increase your automation rate towards 100%. You don't start at 100%, you start maybe at 30%. And until you've reached, 80, 90, 100%, you keep going, right? So it can be really quick or, larger, more complex, multi business unit, multi geographies, multiple teams, bit of politics on top, and it can
Hmm.
take months.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, in the financial services, what I am offering here is probably to share a list of use cases that we have that we can openly share. Um, there's quite a lot of use cases nowadays, right? I think that pretty much everything can be targeted by, I would call it automation. I would be a bit more, cautious on the AI side, but for sure, let's say, intelligent automation is targeting, and there's a lot of uh, financial services company that are, it's really an automation friendly environment.
Yeah.
A lot of the input is already digitalized, it's already standardized, and therefore this is great environment for automating, payment, invoicing. I mean, we can go into all of
Yeah.
that is great environment for automation.
One note that I would add as well with some of these more regulated industries, financial services, healthcare, and so forth, is the regulatory frameworks are really starting to adapt for automation and AI. They know that, obviously the security of the information is really key. And so finding the right partners that have the right compliance frameworks in place, SOC 2, HIPAA, and so forth, is going to be really key for you to be able to solve some of these automation needs within these more regulated industries. And also don't have this sort of like sticker shock of saying just because we're in financial services or healthcare or anything that deals with sensitive information, that doesn't mean that there aren't still processes that don't touch this sensitive information that can be and should be automated, right? So just because you're a financial services company or a healthcare provider doesn't mean that you can't automate some of your marketing functions or some of your back office admin functions, right? You're not always touching this sort of like sensitive data. So this is something that we see often, and something that we also just you need to overcome this limitation that sometimes IT teams or security and compliance teams have as a limitation. Um, any final last thoughts, Olivier, before we let everybody go, other than go automate tomorrow?
No, I think that, back to what we were saying, right? I think a company like yours providing a platform that is really great in the sense that you can start small, you can start tomorrow, and you can basically scale at your own pace. I think those capabilities are going to be really at the center of the automation, at the center of the AI. This capability to control and orchestrate all other tools, all other system is absolutely, critical to have. And I love, and again, yours or some of your competitor are providing those platforms that I consider are going to become uh, one of the most critical platform that you're going to have in your company. It's going to be at the center of your business. It's going to be delivering value. And again, I think you can start really small. You can ramp up even on your own, even without being technical. And this is something that I am advising everyone to do.
Terrific. Well, this is going to be the challenge that we give to everybody who's watched this webinar and will watch this video afterwards. The challenge is let's automate your business in the next 30 days. And so throw us your workflows. Let Olivier and I know what things and problems and KPIs you're trying to hit, and let us come up with a roadmap for you guys. And it'll be our pleasure to help. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Olivier, for being my guest today and taking the time to chat with me about all this stuff. We'll share this the slide deck as well as our contact info as well to everybody who's watched this. And thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Olivier.
Thank you for your time.